International boundaries are not there to divide us.
We are all working hand in hand to ensure that our borders become bridges and not barriers.
The boundaries are to serve as a definition of our territorial integrity.
Parliamentary processes toward the establishment of the Ghana Boundary Commission began in 1970. However, the Commission's Establishing Act, Act 795 of Parliament, was only enacted and Gazette notification issued in 2010. The Ghana Boundary Commission was set up to address the increasingly complex nature of issues along Ghana's international boundary. Its core duty is to demarcate, delimit and manage Ghana's international land and maritime boundaries within the framework of national and international law, peace and security. The working machinery of the Ghana Boundary Commission became operational in 2020 with the appointment of the Commission's first executive head. Prior to this, ad hoc works along Ghana's international boundaries were handled by the governing body of the Commission. Ghana shares maritime boundary with La Côte d'Ivoire, Togo and Nigeria. Aside Nigeria, Ghana's international maritime boundary with Togo and La Côte d'Ivoire has been disputed. While the resolution of Ghana's maritime boundary dispute with Togo has been through a series of negotiations, that of Côte d'Ivoire was resolved through arbitration, a proceeding instituted by Ghana pursuant to the mandatory dispute resolution provisions of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS.
I was basically the cartographer for the Ghana team with respect to negotiations. So we had a lot of interfacing with Côte d'Ivoire counterparts in terms of the map making and in terms of the methods and procedures, and in terms of also trying to calculate and analyze the possible maritime boundaries, what we were to lose or gain from all possible scenarios.
After 3 years of proceedings, the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, ITLOS, ruled in Ghana's favor, upholding the boundary line claimed by Ghana and rejecting the Ivorian demand.
Back in 2009 to about 2012, when we went to courts, and that was the ITLOS proceedings. The line that we proposed as Ghana during the negotiations, and which we stood firm on during the ITLOS court proceedings, was what was eventually granted, almost to a T, in terms of the methodology and the techniques used by the court to delimit the final outcome for Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire.
There was a ruling by the International Tribunal of the Law of the Sea so far as our western boundary is concerned. But it doesn't end there. There's supposed to be an implementation of this verdicts of this rule. So there are continuous discussions between the Boundary Commission of Ghana and the Boundary Commission of Côte d'Ivoire to ensure that that particular ruling is implemented according to how the ruling went. There are inspections that are supposed to be conducted to ensure that, yes, nobody is encroaching on anybody's area or no activities are being done by citizens of both countries so far as the demarcation is concerned. There is also the point of ensuring that the lagoons and rivers that are around the area are also delimited, because the ruling that came was actually for the maritime boundary, that is for the sea, but there are some rivers and lagoons that also separate the country, and so that one has to be properly delimited.
The disputed area covered more than 30,000 kilometers square of maritime territory, including oil-rich blocks where exploration rights had been granted by Ghana. Ghana got more space further deep into the maritime space when the UNCLOS granted her an extra approximate 350 nautical miles called the Intercontinental Shelf.
The UN has recommended our submission for extended continental shelf, And so we have a bit more space in terms of marine space beyond the 200 nautical miles that the UNCLOS prescribes. And so in this situation here, Ghana, I think, should be looking to sort of possibly exploit or also manage that space very, very well. GMPC is leading the way with research and collaborations with Ghana Boundary Commission to make sure that Ghana knows what is out there in terms of on the seafloor and the water column and beneath the seafloor as well.
Overall, Ghana's experience with the maritime dispute reinforced the importance of diplomacy, legal frameworks and responsible resource management, not only in the maritime space but also on issues surrounding her land boundaries. This sets the tone for a critical look again at the mandate of the Ghana Boundary Commission. With the appointment of the Commissioner General Major General Emmanuel Kotia in 2020, the acquisition and setup of office space, and the recruitment and secondment of staff, the Ghana Boundary Commission became fully operational in 2021.
According to the Public Service Act of Ghana, every organization is expected to have a scheme of service. For us at the Ghana Boundary Commission, the scheme of service clearly defines the hierarchy of our organization. So here we have on our organizational structure the governing board as the apex for administrative purpose. Then we have the Commissioner General, who is responsible for the operational and administrative functions of the Commission, followed by the Deputy. And the structure trickles down to cover every department, unit, and office of the Commission.
The Ghana Boundary Commission was established without a structure. So at the initial stage, we tried to put a number of structures, and as we started, we kept on evolving the structure. But I think that now we have a well-defined structure which has been approved by the Public Services Commission. We have set up various departments like the Research Department, the Policy Plans and Programs Department. We have the Boundary Operations Department, we have the Administrative Department, we have Survey and Delimitation Department, and then we have other auxiliary sections within the Boundary Commission. I must say that the structure works very well with directors. Now, one key thing that we have developed in the Boundary Commission is to have an executive management committee, and that is made of all directors and key sector heads, which discusses policy issues and we focus the implementation of our activities every 3 months. And that gives us a very good structure and policy orientation so far as the Boundary Commission is concerned.
With a functional machinery, 7 departments and legislative instruments to run affairs, the Commission's work got underway.
The Ghana Boundary Commission has a law that has been established. The act was passed by Parliament in 2010. However, we have realized over the period that the law is inadequate so far as the functioning of the Commission is concerned. One, the functions of the Commission itself is not widespread as compared to other neighboring boundary commissions, and it's not even in line with international best practices. So that has been revised in the new bill that is before Parliament. Additionally, the membership of the board of directors of the Boundary Commission was limited and did not cover certain key areas. So this is one of the key reasons why we had to come up with a new bill so that it will replace the current act that we have that administers the Ghana Boundary Commission. In addition, various administrative and financial provisions were not made in the act that established the Boundary Commission. So now, most of these things have been added. And let me mention that it went through vigorous stakeholder discussions. We started from the Attorney General's office, from the Minister of Lands and other stakeholders within the ministry, and the external actors who had something to do with the Ghana Boundary Commission.
The Commission's initial works were guided by a 10-year strategic plan developed in 2021.
The strategic plan of the Ghana Boundary Commission, a long-term one, outlines key priority areas that we need to focus on. And there are 5 priority areas that we looked at when we established it. The first one has to do with institutional capacity building. The second focus or priority area had to do with securing the land and maritime boundaries of Ghana. The third priority focus for us was on cross-border governance. The fourth focus had to do with boundary dispute resolution. The fifth area for us has to do with strategic policy framework. And that is where we are undertaking or providing research and evidence policy-based advice and support to government on appropriate strategies and actions towards the management and maintenance of Ghana's international boundaries.
The Research Department is an important arm of the Commission's operations.
Research plays a very vital role in the implementation of the mandates of the Ghana Boundary Commission. And so the Commission, through the Research Department, undertakes a wide range of research activities which supports the core functions, which include boundary reaffirmation and negotiation exercises, and also provide relevant information as well as inform strategy and policy formulation by various stakeholders.
A crucial resource the Commission needs to execute its mandate is legacy document.
Legacy documents basically are historical or archival information with respect to our boundaries. Remember that the boundaries were established by our colonial masters, and these were done in the 1800s and also in the 1900s. And so these are documents that date as far back as these periods. And so locating these documents can be very difficult. And in fact, these documents are in the form of maps, treaties, correspondence, and other relevant pieces of document. We have worked closely with the Public Records and Archives Administration Department here in Ghana to be able to locate some of these documents. One other key area that the legacy documents have been useful is the settling of boundary disputes. For instance, when we have a dispute between us, Ghana, and neighboring countries, we use these documents as a reference point for the resolution of this dispute.
The work of the department provides evidence-based advice on potential or emerging threats related to Ghana's international boundary management.
In terms of human security, we recognize as a commission that the border communities play a key role in the security of the country. And most of these border communities are deprived. Most of them don't have social facilities. And so we work together with the local authorities, district assemblies, and traditional authorities to identify specific needs of these border communities and facilitate the relevant interventions. So, for instance, we carried out an assessment in the Klebi Kame, and we realized the need for the rehabilitation of their clinic. And through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we had funding from the ECOWAS cross-border program to rehabilitate that clinic.
The department also carries out research on human security needs in border communities.
We work a lot in undertaking research to identify what the human security needs are in deprived border communities, to seek funding to provide interventions in these spaces. So it's about rehabilitation of schools or construction of schools, health clinics, boreholes, whatever, anything to make sure that the people in the border areas don't feel neglected. If we look at some of the projects we are undertaking in terms of rehabilitating of health facilities, we look for facilities that serve both countries. So a school facility that serves to promote or enhance the education of children across borders, And all this is good for us because as a state, because it helps in bringing about development, peace, and security.
Armed with some legacy documents, the Survey and Delimitation Department and the Boundary Operations Department of the Commission resumed work. This is the core mandate of the Commission, to take inventory and survey boundary pillars and carry out land and maritime reaffirmation exercises with neighboring countries.
The Boundary Operations Department is the heartbeat of the Ghana Boundary Commission, which is resourced with experts from the various security agencies, the Army, we have the Navy, we have the Air Force, we have the National Intelligence Bureau, and the Ghana Immigration Service. This is to ensure effective collaboration and coordination of the Commission's activities, both within the office space and on the field. The department basically conducts activities to ensure the safety and security of our borders, land, maritime, and air boundaries. We are involved basically in negotiating and resolving boundary disputes. The department also undertakes monitoring of the international boundaries. Though we don't have physical presence on all our boundaries, we have the immigration personnel all lined up along the boundary who are in direct contact with us, giving us daily situational update. We have the military patrols deployed along the stretch who also give us up-to-date information on activities. We have our personnel deployed at the forward operating bases who also constantly update us on the information, and this is pushed up the ladder for decision at the highest level. We also undertake what we call the border intelligence. We do assessments on the inflows and outflows of personnel, equipment, and resources, and that take data which helps in policy formulation and decision making at the highest level.
One of the first work we decided to do was to look at areas where there are disputes and problems, or we know boundary pillars have been removed, and go there and do an assessment so that we can advise and have policy decisions on them. So we started from Dollar Power, where we got information that some people were removing the boundary pillars between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, and then there was some illegal mining activities in the place. So we went there, did an assessment, found some of the pillars. Yes, indeed, when we went there, some of them were removed, some of them were disturbed, and we surveyed them, identified their locations, identified other locations, other pillars that are not being removed, and by that we're able to realign the boundary line for that sake. After that, we did assessment survey also in Aflao, and in Aflao we were looking for the land boundary terminus that will aid in the dispute resolution on the maritime space. The land boundary terminus serves as the last pillar on our land boundary, and so it is used as a reference point to delimit the maritime area. And so we went to do assessments of surveying some of the existing boundaries along the boundary line in our flower area to help us identify the location of land boundary terminus. We did work and we have come to an agreement of, we didn't find the pillar itself, but we together with the Togolese team have agreed on a place where we have marked for the reconstruction of a new boundary pillar. We also did an assessment survey in Polimakum, Fusiga area, and in Polimakum, the river demarcating the boundary between Ghana and Togo was in dispute. The people from Togo thought that the boundary goes beyond the river, and then the authorities in Ghana also knew that the river is a boundary. So we went there together with the Togolese Boundary Commission, and we looked at our legacy documents, and we all found out that the document says that the river is the boundary, and we resolved that issue on the site. Paga had a similar issue. The population in Paga has grown so close to the boundary line that people were building very close or on the boundary line. We found a restaurant which had a pillar inside the restaurant. So the kitchen was in Ghana and the sitting area for the restaurant was in Burkina Faso. And we advised them on how they should take care of the pillars. Those are some of the things we found out in Paga. Assessment surveys aim was basically to go there, look at the problems. We, the surveyors, survey the actual boundary line as demarcated by the pillars, give policy decisions on how the problem can be solved. After the sensitization of the community, we go straight to the field to search for the existing pillars or any markers that define the boundary. So in the search, we use information from the legacy document and also maps that are available, but mostly we also rely on the communities where these pillars are located. After the field research and survey of the pillars, we go and map the pillars on the ground, agree on the points to be mapped, and then we go back to the field and stake out the positions of the new places we want to put pillars.
We've had activities along our boundaries dating back to 1898. And these records have been difficult to come by. The department is trying as much as possible to maintain a database of all the activities that we undertake on the ground, get records of issues that happen on the ground that have not been documented. We have compiled quite a substantial number of database that will guide future research activities that will be carried out along the international boundary line.
Commander Lucas Oklu is the Commission's Maritime Operations Officer.
Some of the key collaborations in the maritime domain, the Ghana Boundary Commission and the Ghana Navy has engaged in include the conduct of a maiden maritime boundary inspection, which was conducted in March 2023. The objective of the maritime inspection was to assess the Western Maritime Boundary as part of the ITLOS ruling and to ensure that there were no violations or illegal cross-boundary activities across the recognized maritime boundary.
There are other crucial activities that pave way for the effective execution of the functions of the Commission.
As part of efforts in promoting good neighborliness and cross-border cooperation and making sure that we are working together with our neighbors, of course, in addressing the borders that were arbitrarily created and we inherited, we have to make sure that our boundaries are well defined. And we do that by what we call reaffirmation of our boundaries. We do that together with our counterparts. And that is key for us to know where the boundaries end.
Before undertaking any reaffirmation exercise on the field, we first and foremost ensure that all our activities are preceded by sensitization exercises. These sensitization exercises afford us the opportunity to educate Ghanaians and residents of border communities in general on the need to respect the international boundary lines, the international boundary markers that demarcate our international boundaries, and also the need to live amicably. We also take advantage of these sensitization exercises to re-echo to the border residents especially that these international boundaries are not there to divide us, but rather to bridge us as a people.
We have developed a number of policy briefs, one that speaks to the African Border Day. And so we have written on the African Border Day and we have drawn out the relevance and the prospects of this day to maintaining peace and development along the boundaries. We've also done some work around climate change and its effects on boundary management, and also the role of border communities in preventing transboundary conflicts.
Partnership is a core pillar of the Commission's work. In 2022, it focused on deepening strategic partnerships to improve on the implementation of its strategic priorities.
In the spirit of partnership and collaboration, and also following the admittance of the Ghana Boundary Commission to the African Union Border Program. The Commission has received tremendous support from the Federal Foreign Ministry of Germany through its implementing partner, Deutsche Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, known as GIZ, support program to the African Union Border Program. The support received from the African Union Border Program has been from three broad areas, and we are looking at delimitation and demarcation, cross-border cooperation, and capacity development. This diverse support received from GIZ has contributed to helping with the implementation of the Commission's mandate and also the 5 focus areas of the strategic plan. In the areas of delimitation and demarcation, GIZ has received a total of 5 respective joint reaffirmation exercises along the Ghana's eastern and western international land boundary. 4 of the reaffirmation exercises were conducted along the Ghana-Togo international land boundary in 2022 and 2023, while the reaffirmation exercise along the Ghana-Cote d'Ivoire international land boundary was conducted in the last quarter of 2023. The Federal Foreign Ministry, through GIZ Africa Union Border Program, has supported the joint technical meetings with the National Land Boundary Commission of Togo and also the National Boundary Commission of Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and Burkina Faso in 2022 and 2023 respectively. The technical meetings aimed at enhancing cross-border cooperation and facilitating joint activities on the common land and maritime boundaries among the countries.
Some other major partners include the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration and the Ghana Boundary Commission are natural and statutory partners. The Ghana Boundary Commission, in seeding or providing platforms with other boundary commissions in neighboring countries. For example, if there is a message or a request for a meeting or a conference, reaffirmation exercises, if they have to perform this, these are not done unilaterally. We pass on the information and provide diplomatic interface.
The Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC.
We have interest in the activities of the Commission in terms of getting the territory of Ghana well defined for us so that we can go in and explore for petroleum product or do exploration to get oil for the country.
The Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana.
Had it not been the effective ruling of the ITLOS, wouldn't have had an end to our challenge between Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana on the sea. So when we have this clear demarcation, it impacts on some of these relationships and also have a clear way of settling disputes when they arise. That's where civil society come in. The advocacy, the research, and the support that we give to the institutions so as to be able people to know what the institutions are doing, the capabilities, and where they need more support.
Others are the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, the Minerals Commission, Ghana Revenue Authority, the Ghana Armed Forces.
The Ghana Armed Forces have been very instrumental in all the activities and achievements of the Ghana Boundary Commission. On the ground, the Ghana Army has provided security to personnel to do both land and then riverine inspections through the forests, the mountains, and the rocky plains. And I'll say, without this collaboration, it would have been practically impossible for the Commission to undertake all this important national assignment. The Ghana Air Force is responsible for lifting the operations department and the technical team of the Commission to inaccessible areas along the international boundaries to undertake its work on the ground and then extract the team at the end of the day. This has been evident both on the eastern boundaries, the northern boundaries, as well as the western boundaries of the country. Another key stakeholder is the Ghana Navy. We've been able to undertake successful boundary line inspections on the maritime domain, and we've taken the opportunity to also inspect the oil fields within our territory and ensure our territorial waters are not invaded by transorganized criminals to foment trouble within our territory.
The Ghana Immigration Service.
The Ghana Immigration Service and the Ghana Boundary Commission have a shared goal of coming together, bringing our two functions together. The Ghana Boundary Commission outlining the boundaries, and the Ghana Immigration Service riding on that outlined boundary to protect the country. So we collaborate a lot. We are key partners. So everywhere you see the Ghana Boundary Commission moving, the Ghana Immigration Service moves with them. We patrol the country's borders daily. So we are able to see infractions on the country's borders. There are shifts in borders, encroachment from the other side, etc. Then we call the Ghana Boundary Commission's attention to some of these infractions and threats. Then quickly they move in to find a way to resolve it with our support. When these lines are defined, it is important for us, Ghana Immigration Service and the Ghana Boundary Commission, to come together to educate and engage their communities and explain to them that these are the lines, these are where our limits are. When it comes to Ghana Boundary Commission's engagement with the international partners, there are times there are meetings in here or out there, and then there have to be at times joint inspections. Again, the Ghana Immigration Service accompanies the Ghana Boundary Commission officers and the international partners to visit places that have been breached.
An indispensable partnership the Commission needs to drive its sensitization and border community engagement is the media.
The Commission relies heavily on the media in reaching our stakeholders, most especially the Ghanaian populace and people living in border communities along Ghana's international boundary line. Being a relatively new institution and actually in our third year of operation, very little is known about the Commission, the mission, vision of the Commission, the mandate of the Commission, the activities the Commission is undertaking, as well as the differences between the work of the Commission and those of other border security and border management agencies of Ghana.
No success story is without challenges.
Much as the African Union border strategy is a key document, there are bound to be some challenges in terms of its implementation. And one of them has to do with the fact that not all member states are aware of this key tool or this key document that is aimed at helping to promote effective boundary management and regional integration and cross-border cooperation. So having the word lack of awareness or information is key. So in that way, it is usually the national boundary or border structures that are supposed to implement or be the lead in promoting this. However, a number of countries don't have those structures in place.
Assessing legacy document has proven challenging, with many identified records being either brittle or damaged. This impedes the Commission's operations, obstructing its ability to effectively carry out its duties.
The key challenge in locating the legacy document is the fact that the Public Records and Archives Administration is the only institution that we can find a number of these documents. And so we are appealing to individuals, institutions, libraries, not only here in Ghana, but across the world, that have pieces of information, maps, treaties, any form of document that speaks to our boundaries, to help us to be able to secure these documents, because they go a long way to help in the peace and security of our nation, and more so our border areas to be able to resolve border disputes, boundary disputes with our neighbors.
The Commissioner General Kutia mentioned other challenges.
Going to the field and working with other boundary commissions, both at the field and at the various capitals, we realize that there are so many things that we require. First of all, technical equipments are key. There are various technical equipments that we need so far as our activities at the boundaries are concerned. One of the key equipment that we use in the field is mapping drones. We do not have adequate mapping drones. We also need maritime mapping drones to be used to assess our international maritime boundaries. We also need GNSS equipment that are used by our survey and delimitation department for markings along the land and maritime boundaries. We also need quite a number of specialists to be employed in this department. However, the low salary associated with some of these appointments has discouraged prospective candidates from applying for some of these positions. In addition, our budgetary allocation is very low. We do quite a lot of work, and much of it depends on money to be able to move to the boundary areas. As a result of that, we still have a lot of outstanding mapping exercises to be conducted. We've not been able to conduct it because budgetary allocation to the Boundary Commission is very low. But one of the outstanding challenges I need to mention here is that we do not have our own offices. So these offices is rented. So we think that we should get a land, which we have applied through Lands Commission, so that we can construct our own facility. On the financing and budgetary area, we have worked our way through the German funding using the implementing agency of GIZ to support our conferences or meetings with neighboring countries. That is a limit that GIZ can go. The funding is even limited on land boundaries. It doesn't cover maritime boundaries. We have had some limited support from GMPC, and that is also concentrated on maritime boundaries. But then there's still a lot that we can do, and there's still a lot that we need.
In 2023, officials of the Commission, led by the Commissioner General, Major General Emmanuel Kutia, deposited the instruments of the ratified Convention on the African Union Convention on Cross-Border Cooperation, known as the Niamey Convention, at the AU headquarters at Addis Ababa in Ethiopia.
Ghana stands to benefit immensely from us having ratified the Niamey Convention in various dimensions. I mean, one of it, if we look at it, it provides a legal basis or a legal framework for us to develop and implement cross-border initiatives. Also, if we tie it into the African Continental Free Trade Area, as well as providing human security interventions. I mean, if we look at border areas, most of them are underdeveloped, and there's the issue of crime, or we have violent extremism if these places are not developed. Once we have this document, it provides a lot of benefits for us if we are looking at it within the context of national security, peace, and development.
In the same year, the Commission deposited the charts and maps of the outer limits of the extended continental shelf for Ghana to the International Seabed Authority and the United Nations Division for Ocean Affairs and the Law of the Sea, DOALOS. The Commission also hosted a maiden experience sharing workshop on the operationalization and development of national boundary structures, which saw ECOWAS, East African Community (EAC), and Southern African Development Community (SADC) countries converge under one roof to discuss coordinated strategies for the effective implementation of regional and continental plans for integrated border governance. The Commission engaged the boundary commissions of Togo, Côte d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, and Nigeria to negotiate common land and maritime boundaries to promote cooperation, cross-border governance, and secure Ghana's territorial sovereignty.
Within the period that the machinery of the Boundary Commission was operationalized, I can say that we've done a lot of work across our 3 land boundaries and the maritime boundaries between Ghana and Togo and between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. We've been able to organize quite a number of operational assessments along the Ghana-Togo border. We have been able to do a reaffirmation of not less than 300 kilometers on land boundaries of both Ghana and Togo. We have currently constructed a number of pillars that covers about 150 kilometers on the land boundary between Ghana and Togo. So that has been a great achievement. Along the Ghana-Togo boundary, to be able to resolve certain similarly issues that would have led to conflicts at Pulumanco and Leklebi-Kame in that regard. So those are some of the issues that we'll be able to resolve. On the Ghana-Cote d'Ivoire border, there have not been major issues as such, apart from the issue of dollar power. The issue of dollar power has to do with removal of pillars by some illegal miners to create way for them to declare the territory as unguarded space. We'll be able to reclaim and identify the boundary pillars, and we are currently facilitating the construction of a road that runs along the boundary pillars of Cote d'Ivoire. In that wise, Ghana to Cote d'Ivoire land boundary is secure. In addition to that, the new thing that has come into add to this is that we're introducing intermediary boundary pillars, and also we're introducing border post pillars. Now, one of the reasons why we're doing this is to guide, especially the border post boundaries, to guide security agents who are deployed, like the Ghana Immigration Service, where the line is, because they don't know, and the boundary commission that should be able to identify that. The second thing about intermediate boundary pillars is that to guide locals around, so that if the boundaries are closer, they'll be able to know the extent of the international boundary line.
We've been able to undertake successful boundary line inspections on the maritime domain in collaboration with the Ghana Navy, and then with our own surveillance drones and mapping drones covering several nautical miles to inspect the maritime boundary between Ghana and La Côte d'Ivoire on the western boundaries. And I'll say this has been very largely successful, and it has further enhanced the collaboration and cooperation among us as statehood.
On December 18, 2024, a significant milestone was achieved as Parliament passed the Ghana Boundary Commission Bill 2024 into law. This new legislation aims to enhance Ghana's ability to manage boundary demarcation and resolve disputes more effectively. Major General Emmanuel Kutia believes the new law will strengthen the Commission's authority in handling boundary issues.
It's going to give us a lot of confidence to be able to work with these neighboring commissions. And it is also setting a stage in which international best practices that have been added into the bill to be realized. It's important for us to note that the old bill did not have administrative provisions. There were no financial provisions in the old bill. Thirdly, the composition of the governing body was very skewed to some extent. Now we have an all-encompassing stakeholder ministerial representation on the governing body. And let me mention that that is one key thing, because the Ghana Boundary Commission is a strategic entity.
Additionally, the law aligns the Commission's mandate with international best practices, making a significant step forward. When all is said and done, one concern of civil society is how to sustain the Commission when General Kutia exists.
I see leadership as what has changed the face of the Boundary Commission. Not much was heard about the Boundaries Commission until the assumption of the Major General Kutia as the national coordinator. So post Major General Kutia, how will the institution be able to function? We pray that he gets the needed support to be able to put up firm structures, firm systems, so that even if he's not there, anyone who comes to take up the commission will have already established structures to work within.
Monitoring the progressive work of the Ghana Boundary Commission with neighboring boundary commissions of Cote d'Ivoire, Togo and Burkina Faso so far, the AU Commission has given its approval, saying it is impressed with the commitment and enthusiasm of the Commission.
The work that the Ghana Boundary Commission has been doing in maritime security, we commend the efforts. This aligns with our goal of holding a continental maritime exercise that will bring in the Navy, will bring in the boundary commissions and all actors in the field, including civil society and the private sector, so that we can better promote fisheries, we can better trade through the high seas, because trading by air cargo will not be the only option. It is necessary through the high seas. That is when we can have the Africa we want. I really want to commend the Commissioner General and his team for the very successful efforts being made to ensure that there will be peaceful coexistence with Ghana's neighbors.
With its motto, service, vigilance and partnerships, the Ghana Boundary Commission is ready to turn borders into bridges.